Are you fascinated by genes and what they can do? When you look at your favorite actor, do you also say that he's got the perfect looks, perfect build, perfect skin? I bet it's in his genes. But then, what do you do about it? You just laugh, right? Apparently, the Chinese take it more seriously. The Chinese government seems to have invested heavily in science and technology, including gene editing research. The government has also launched several initiatives, such as the Thousands Talent Plan, to attract and retain talented scientists and researchers for it. But things don't always go as planned. Recently, China has been making headlines in the world for gene editing and laws surrounding it.
From deadly birth control policies to cloning pet animals to tweaking human genome, every law is being flouted in the country. Experiments on human gene is a matter of grave concern. 1. The implication of human mutation is unknown. 2. It's ethically wrong to design babies, and man cannot play God.
But why bother about it? Should we? I believe yes, since genes are nothing else but our blueprints. I sat down with Ankur to discuss what's happening in China in relation to genes, experiments, DNA, and whatnot. I am Mugdha Goyal, and you are listening to the News Park. Hi Ankur, how are you?
I'm good. How about you?
I'm good as well.
You know what? I really like your voice. Is it your mom's or your dad's?
Thank you. I don't know about that, but I know what you're aiming for genes, which is our topic for the day.
Right, correct. You know what? I heard something about genes that happened 5 years ago in China, which is making headlines now. Why is that?
Yes, because just like any other country, China is facing a similar problem loopholes in its legal system.
Yes, but we are talking about loopholes related to gene editing. That is something not every country has made progress in.
Well, that I'll say, the whole world is fascinated by China's experiment in such spheres. And now they have come back to light. But first, would you like to explain to our listeners the concept of gene editing?
Oh, I love to talk about gene editing. It's an
Mhm.
exciting concept. I mean, it is the most exciting time in genetics since the discovery of DNA in 1953. And gene editing is nothing but the ability to change one's DNA.
Like, so in simpler terms, just like video editors can transform how the video appears, scientists, by editing the genes, can literally rewrite the DNA and transform humans.
Not just humans, but also plants and animals. Scientists also hope they can create drought resilient crops and help us adapt to climate change. Imagine plants in hotter countries would not dry up even in droughts because their genes are so strong to hold that temperature.
That's amazing. And I guess the benefits of gene editing to humanity could be significant.
Yeah, like scientists claim that it could be a future treatment for sick cell diseases.
Right. Scientists have used gene editing techniques to modify the gene of mosquitoes, which I know that, helps to prevent them from spreading diseases such as malaria, dengue, fever.
Hmm. And also, I see many South Koreans have changed their eye color permanently. Is that also gene editing?
No, changing the eye color is not gene editing. It is a cosmetic or aesthetic application.
Oh, so gene editing is generally reserved for medical purposes, such as treating genetic diseases.
Yes, and anyway, the procedure to permanently change your eye color involves removing a thin layer of the iris using a laser or surgical tool, which, can cause damage to the eye and the risk of vision loss or other complications. And I hope you're not planning on doing that.
No, I'm not. Don't worry. I'm just curious. Okay, so let's go in the background. What happened 5 years ago in China?
Okay, so you're gonna feel like you're in a sci fi movie. So, 5 years ago, in 2019, a Chinese biophysics researcher, Dr. He Jiankui, became widely known for conducting an experiment and creating the first human genetically edited babies, twins nicknamed Lulu and Nana.
Genetically edited babies, like he changed the genes of the baby after they were born.
Not even after, just before they were born, when they were just eggs, in their embryo stage.
And why did he do that?
The twins' father has HIV, so Dr. He claimed that, he can make them resistant to HIV. And that is why he specifically selected this couple for the experiment.
Wow, and this couple allowed the doctor to experiment with their babies?
Well, they did. And the doctor used CRISPR technology, which is basically like, use of scissors to make cuts in the DNA to alter it.
And then?
He announced that the babies are HIV resistant and became an overnight hero. He was praised in the press for making a major scientific breakthrough.
It was a birth announcement that shocked the world.
Two beautiful little Chinese girls named Lulu and Lala came crying into the world as healthy as any other babies a few weeks ago.
Chinese biophysicist He Jiankui, working largely in secret, had used CRISPR to knock out a gene called CCR5 in 2 early human embryos, then returned the embryos to their mother's womb. CCR5 plays a key role in HIV infection, and the girl's father was HIV positive. He said his motive was noble.
As a father of 2 girls, I can't think of a gift more beautiful and wholesome for the society than giving another couple a chance to start a loving family.
Interesting.
And not just the twins, the doctor claimed that the future children and grandchildren of these twins will also be resistant to HIV.
So the cause behind the experiment is good, right?
Yes, in an international summit on human genome editing in Hong Kong, China, he said that he developed this technique to make the world HIV/AIDS free. He also said, that those affected with it face severe discrimination, and that is why he wanted to find an end to it.
I understand my work will be controversial, but I believe family need this technology, and I'm willing to take the criticism for them.
So what about the results? I'm curious, are the babies HIV resistant?
That's the thing. This is still debatable. Although the doctor, very proudly claims, yes, they are HIV resistant, but many studies claim that they aren't. But, there is no conclusive study giving us a straight answer.
Specific case, I feel proud, actually. I feel proudest.
But are the babies at least okay?
Yes, they are completely healthy and living with their parents. But following scrutiny on how the experiment was executed, he received widespread condemnation.
That's what I was thinking. It's not legal anywhere, and the doctor cannot just go about being a hero.
You're right. I mean, the experiment was deemed premature, irresponsible, and unjustified because it exposed the babies to risks associated with gene editing. He was also fined and sentenced to 3 years in prison. In fact, he has not been seen in public since, his presentation in Hong Kong.
And he's out of prison now?
Yes, he is. And upon his release, news came that he was planning to set up a clinic in Hong Kong to research about gene editing to develop a treatment for children with a rare inherited muscular disorder.
To move on to the stage for embryo genome editing, there will be someone somewhere who's doing this. If it's not me, it's someone else.
Okay, so now we know about the background story. Why is this experiment creating news now?
Because the doctor was arrested, the Chinese government tightened their gene editing regulations. But still, it has a lot of loopholes, because of which these experiments are still conducted.
Yeah. I read in the news that most relevant regulations date back to 2003 and need updating. And especially the technology that the doctor used, that is the CRISPR's, is a new advancement, but no laws are in place to deal with it.
Yes, exactly. Laws have to be modified with time. And that is why, after so much of criticism, the Chinese government, has brought some new rules in relation to gene editing.
Oh, new rules. So what do they say?
The new rules say that they basically categorizes experiments into high risk, medium risk, and low risk technologies in human. So, any high risk technology would need approval of a yet to be specified agency under the State Council, which is basically China's highest administrative authority.
And what about the medium risk and low risk?
They would need institutional and provincial approval as well.
Hmm. These are the laws about like the risk associated with it. But what about the participants? I know that the couple readily agreed for the doctor to experiment on their babies, but I know in many cases the participant will not ever volunteer for it and might be forced to be the subject of such experiments.
You're so right, because the new requirements do talk about informed consent by trial participants and as well as the information needed on applications. It states that conflict of interest or lack of clarity on funding sources will also be the grounds for rejecting a proposed experiment.
That is what is required. What about scientists and researchers like Dr. He Jiankui and their practices? As far as I understand, the doctor was just imprisoned for 3 years and is out. And like you said, also opening new private practices. I mean, his experiment could have caused the twins' life, and we still don't know if they will be healthy in the coming years. Forget about being resistant to HIV.
Yes, that is something which should be taken seriously. Well, the new regulations specify a range of legal penalties, including warnings, fines, a lifetime ban on participating in clinic research, which you were just talking about, and criminal charges as well, depending on the seriousness of the infraction.
So I think China asserts that the new laws are in line with international rules.
Yes, they set requirements for ethical approval, supervision, inspection.
Mm. But I'm still surprised. Why is it coming so late when the experiment was done 5, 6 years ago? I mean, a tiny mistake could destroy the health of a baby or lead to other diseases throughout their
Yeah, the
lifetime.
risk of developing designer babies. This is the term they actually use for it. Designer babies are
Mhm.
so the risk associated are so high that it is unlikely that it will become legal anytime soon.
I wonder what the laws are in other countries. I know China is not alone to do such experiments.
Laws and regulations surrounding gene editing are strict in every country. Most countries prohibit the implantation of human embryo that has been genetically altered in any way.
Hmm. But then this 2019 example shows that laws can be broken. Mugda, is there any country where heritable human genome editing is permitted?
Only 11 countries explicitly allow the use of genetically modified in vitro embryos in lab, but no country allows for the use of such embryos to initiate pregnancies.
So no country is allowed for the use of such embryos to initiate pregnancy. So basically, you can only use the egg for experiments, but not for childbirth.
Just think of it, if you allow gene edited babies to be born, they will also have babies in future and an entire new human race will start. And just imagine any slight error results in a problematic human race. Could you possibly even stop that?
Yeah, you cannot just kill people like in movies. Like, okay, this experiment was not successful, so kill this batch or of people before they reproduce.
Right. And I mean, where is the humanity in that? Thank you so much, Ankur, for discussing this topic with me.
Yeah, that was a great and informational topic. Thank you so much, Mukta.
While gene editing technology holds great promise for mankind, scientists like Dr. He Jiankui are of the opinion that such breakthroughs cannot be achieved without conducting experiments on humans, as it is for their future benefit only. After all, a scientist needs a subject to experiment on. But then there are others who say that human cells and tissues can be grown in the lab to conduct experiments. It can also be done through a combination of animal studies, lab studies, computational modeling, without the need for experiments on humans. It seems that the world agrees with the majority. After all, humanity comes first. Yes, experiments on humans are an important part of medical research, but they should be conducted only under carefully controlled conditions with appropriate ethical and safety oversight. Otherwise, one day, such an experiment might actually end up like a sci fi movie, destroying the human race in the end. Thank you for listening. See you next time.